My wife left me 2 weeks after our wedding for her ex, then showed up at the airport begging. I never thought I'd be the guy airing out his dirty laundry online, but here I am. Life's got a messed up sense of humor sometimes. Maybe writing this all out will help me make sense of the mess. Fair warning, this isn't a short story. I'm 30 years old, a structural engineer by trade, mostly working on skyscrapers and large-scale commercial buildings. I love what I do, even if it means late nights and tight deadlines. My now ex Emma was 28 when we got married. She's, or was, a wildlife veterinarian. I still don't know what to call her anymore. Funny enough, we met because of a hawk. One of our construction sites had an injured one land on the steel frame of a high-rise, and my site manager called the local wildlife center. Emma showed up in muddy boots and a ponytail, looking totally out of place among all these guys in hard hats, but the way she handled that bird was unreal. She was confident, calm, knew exactly what to do. I started talking to her while she was tending to. It found out she'd just moved to the city. I offered to show her around. Classic move, I know. She actually said yes. That turned into dinner, then more dinners, and before I knew it, we'd been together for 3 years. It felt perfect. We had our little arguments, whose turn it was to take out the trash or me working too much, but nothing serious. She supported my chaotic schedule, and I supported her obsession with rescuing any injured animal within a 50-mile radius. At one point, we had a 3-legged raccoon living in our guest bathroom. No joke. We talked about the future all the time. Kids, a house in the suburbs, a couple of dogs. Even the little things lined up. We both hated cilantro, loved true crime documentaries. It felt like fate. Looking back, maybe it was too perfect. The wedding, straight out of a fairy tale, at least on paper. Emma had always dreamed of a vineyard ceremony. Took me a full year to save up, but it felt worth it. Her dad, a former Marine covered in tattoos, actually teared up walking her down the aisle. That image is burned in my brain, him crying, Emma glowing. My college buddies flew in from everywhere. Even Kyle, my best friend, managed to get there from Dubai, where he'd been working on a huge engineering project. He actually pulled me aside before the wedding and tried to warn me. Said he'd picked up on a few red flags with Emma. I brushed it off. Love is blind and all that crap. The ceremony was stunning. Emma obsessed over every detail, the flowers, the music, the wine flown in from a special vineyard we visited once. She even hired someone to handwrite the place cards in calligraphy. My mom said it was the most beautiful wedding she'd ever seen. The reception, a wild party. We had a live band that kept everyone dancing. Emma's Australian cousins taught us some drinking game that left half the guests hungover the next morning. I remember holding her during our first dance and thinking, I've made it. This is it. For 2 weeks, everything was bliss. We got back from our honeymoon in Bali, and Emma was already talking about maybe trying for a baby next year. I was exhausted from the jet lag, but happy, content. And then, it all fell apart. Emma started acting different. At first it was subtle, more time on her phone, less interest in hanging out. She used to give me crap for checking emails at dinner. Now she was the one glued to her screen. I'd walk into the room and she'd quickly flip her phone or lock it. I figured maybe she was planning a surprise. What a joke. Then came the late nights. Now Emma had always worked crazy hours when emergencies came into the wildlife center and but this was different. She kept saying she had to stay overnight to monitor an injured eagle or fox, but things didn't add up. One night she said she was treating a fox that needed care, but I saw the same fox had been released that morning on the center's Instagram. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Meanwhile, I was buried in work designing the foundation for a new 50-story hospital tower downtown. A huge project, lots of pressure. Turned out it was Ryan's hospital, the trauma surgeon ex she never really talked about. Emma's best friend Olivia noticed the plans at our place one night. That's probably how she found out Ryan was back in town. Speaking of Olivia, where do I even begin? She's 32, works as a receptionist at the Wildlife Center, divorced twice before 30 new boyfriend every month, drama queen. Instagram bio says, if you can't handle me at my worst. You know the type. I never liked her, but I kept my mouth shut. Later I found out she'd actually hit on me when I first met Emma, back when I was visiting the center after the hawk incident. I didn't even register it at the time, was too into Emma, but that probably stung Olivia more than she let on. She started coming over more and more, whispering in corners with Emma, giggling and shutting up whenever I walked into the room. Once I overheard her say, You deserve to be happy. You can't help how you feel." At the time, I brushed it off. Now I know better. Everything blew up on a Thursday morning. I'd been up since 5 a.m. reviewing foundation plans. Emma walked into my home office in her pajamas looking like she hadn't slept. She sat down on the couch and just started crying. The ugly can't breathe kind of crying. My stomach dropped. I thought someone had died. Then she said it. Olivia convinced her to meet up with Ryan. They'd been texting for weeks. Ryan told her he still had feelings for her, and get this, Emma said she was confused, said she needed to figure things out. She sat there crying, telling me she couldn't commit to our marriage until she was sure about her feelings for Ryan. 2 weeks. We'd been married 2 freaking weeks. The thank you cards weren't even mailed out yet. I honestly thought I was hallucinating. She said I need to be sure about us so we don't end up divorced in 5 years. I just started laughing. Not because it was funny, because it was so ridiculous, it broke my brain. She looked at me like I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. I opened my laptop, Googled divorce lawyers in our city, and started making calls right in front of her. Emma freaked out. I just said I needed time to think. I didn't say I wanted a divorce. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "No. What you need is to get the hell out of my house." Not my proudest moment, but sleep-deprived, emotionally nuked me, wasn't in the mood to negotiate. Then she said the most messed up thing I've ever heard. Ryan was my first love. I'll always wonder what if I don't explore this. That's when I snapped. You know what's not complicated wedding vows. I asked her point blank if she ever meant them. She didn't answer. Then she tried to guilt trip me, said Olivia told her that if I really loved her, I'd give her space to figure this out. So I pulled up our wedding video. Yes, really made her watch herself say, forsaking all others. Asked her if she was lying then or now. She didn't have an answer for that either. Then came the real kicker. She said Ryan had just come off a 36-hour shift and told her she could come stay with him while she figured this out. She already had bags packed. Turns out she'd been planning this for days, slowly moving her stuff out while I was working. That was the final nail. I started sorting through our wedding gifts, making 2 piles, stuff she could take and stuff she couldn't. Super mature, I know. Then I called Kyle in Dubai. Told him everything. He got on the first flight home. That's a real friend. Emma called me dramatic for getting him involved. I reminded her she invited her ex and her toxic best friend into our marriage. Maybe sit this one out. Everything after that is a blur of crying, yelling, and her trying to justify the unjustifiable. That night, I got blackout drunk on the back patio with Kyle. Wedding photos still on the wall, ring still on my finger, and that was just the beginning. The morning after Emma left, I woke up on the couch, head pounding, mouth dry, still in the same clothes from the night before. Kyle was passed out on the patio chair, snoring like a dying lawnmower. I was trying to piece together what the hell just happened when someone started banging on my front door. Not knocking, pounding. The kind of knocking that makes your heart skip a beat. For a second, I thought maybe Emma came back to get more of her stuff, maybe even to talk things through. But it wasn't her. It was Mike, Emma's dad. Now, Mike's not your average suburban dad. The guy is 6'4", built like a brick wall, ex-Marine arms full of military tattoos, and he runs a successful private security company. I legit thought he came to kick my ass. I mean, his daughter probably fed him some half-baked story about how I was the bad guy in all of this. I opened the door bracing for a punch, but instead he just looked at me and said, "My daughter's a damn idiot. You got any coffee?" Next thing I know, I'm sitting at my kitchen table with Mike and Kyle, all of us drinking this weird mix of black coffee and Jack Daniels at 9 in the morning, like it was a war room strategy session. Mike didn't hold back, told me flat out he never liked Ryan, said something about the guy always seeming too polished, too perfect in a fake kind of way. Then he dropped a bombshell. Apparently Ryan cheated on Emma back in college right before he joined Doctors Without Borders. Emma never knew. Mike and Emma's mom decided not to tell her back then because, and I quote, she was too emotionally fragile. So let's recap. My wife left me 2 weeks after our wedding for a guy who had already betrayed her once, and she didn't even know it. That was the moment it all snapped into place. The phone addiction, the late nights, the weird evasive behavior. It wasn't just about confusion. It was betrayal, plain and simple. Mike was the one who actually recommended a divorce attorney, said he'd used the guy before in some business dispute, and the guy was ruthless but fair. He also casually offered to have one of his guys talk to Ryan. I politely declined. Still, I appreciated the loyalty. The next few days were brutal. I had to call my boss to explain why I needed time off from the skyscraper project. I was nervous about it. We were in the middle of a big deadline, but he was surprisingly cool. Turns out his first wife pulled something similar on him years ago. He gave me 2 weeks paid leave and told me to take care of myself. That honestly meant more than I can say. But the worst part, dealing with our home. It looked like a wedding registry exploded in there. Unopened gifts, photo albums, thank you cards we never got to send. I found our marriage certificate in a pile of mail and had a full-on breakdown. Just sat on the floor with it in my hands, trying to figure out how it all went so wrong, so fast. Then, James Emma's younger brother showed up. He's a junior engineer at my firm, good kid smart way, more emotionally aware than most guys his age. He came by to grab some of Emma's stuff. He looked miserable, completely caught in the middle. He told me Emma was already living with Ryan, not crashing for a few nights, living there. He also said she was acting completely different, like a new persona. Fancy clothes, curated Instagram posts, weird inspirational quotes about choosing your own path. Apparently her mom was eating it all up, telling everyone I was being cruel and heartless, that I wasn't supporting Emma's emotional growth. Meanwhile, Mike and James were on my side. Caused a few blow-ups in their house. And then there was Olivia. Turns out she'd been spreading garbage about me at the wildlife center, saying I was emotionally unavailable. That Emma left because I worked too much and didn't prioritize her. Several of Emma's coworkers, people I thought were our mutual friends, unfollowed me on social media. One even sent me a passive-aggressive message about always checking on your partner's feelings. It was unreal. But karma. Oh, karma started working fast. Remember that hospital project I was leading? The one for Ryan's hospital? Yeah, I called my boss, explained the personal conflict. He immediately reassigned me to a different job and had someone else take over the hospital contract. Apparently, Ryan threw a massive fit when he found out. The new project manager told me he was acting like a diva, demanding explanations, trying to control the schedule. Sucks when you don't get to flirt with your new girlfriend's husband at planning meetings, huh? Financially, things were a mess. We just merged our bank accounts after the wedding. I had to freeze everything, call the bank, start the process of untangling our money. Thank God we hadn't bought a house yet. We were still saving up for the down payment. The condo was mine. I bought it before meeting her, but untangling the rest was a nightmare. Emma started leaving voicemails, long rambling ones. I still care about you. I hope we can be friends someday. The kind of messages that make your skin crawl, like you blow up my life and now you want to hang out like buddies. I didn't respond to any of it. Mike kept me updated on the family drama. Apparently Emma and Ryan were doing the full honeymoon phase, fancy restaurants, couple selfies, cute captions like, "Found my forever. Gag me." But then James again, legend found something. He was helping Emma set up a new work iPad, and thanks to the family cloud account, her old texts synced. Turns out Emma and Ryan had been messaging for months before the wedding. Some of those texts were from the week of our wedding. One of them said, "I wish things were different." Another said, "I'll always have love for you." James called me crying, said he felt sick that he was helping her pack her things when he realized the truth. That was the moment I stopped mourning and started rebuilding. I buried myself in work. The skyscraper project I was on, I went back and ran new calculations, found a design solution that saved the client millions in foundation costs. My boss was blown away, fast-tracked my promotion to senior project lead, said I was the kind of engineer they wanted representing the firm internationally. Meanwhile, Emma's fairy tale was cracking. James kept feeding me little updates. Living with Ryan wasn't the romantic fantasy she expected. He's a workaholic. The irony leaves his dirty scrubs everywhere and apparently still acts like he's living in a frat house. Emma went from fancy brunches to crying in the break room. That's where Katie comes in. She's a senior vet at the wildlife center, Emma's mentor when she first started. We'd only spoken a few times, but Katie had always been kind. One day, out of the blue, she reached out to me, said she was disgusted by how Emma and Olivia handled things, and she wanted me to know the truth. Katie started sending me little updates, screenshots, overheard conversations. One day she sent me a photo of Emma in the break room crying because Ryan forgot their 1-month anniversary. Let that sink in. Emma left her husband of 2 weeks for a guy who forgot their 1-month anniversary, and she was heartbroken about it. Can't make this stuff up. But Katie wasn't the only one keeping tabs. Turns out, Olivia had been playing both sides the entire time. While she was encouraging Emma to explore her feelings for Ryan, she was also getting close to Ryan herself. She'd been trying to cozy up to him behind Emma's back. Had lunch with him a few times. When Emma found out, Olivia had the audacity to say, "Well, you were married when you started texting Ryan, so what's the difference?" I nearly fell out of my chair when Katie told me that. The whole thing was unraveling, and I was finally starting to breathe again. I was stronger, clearer, focused. The gym became my therapy. I put on muscle, slept better, ate better. I even booked a session with a therapist just to talk through the emotional aftermath. First time I'd done that in my life. Then one day I got a call. A headhunter said a firm in Singapore had heard about my innovative foundation design. They wanted me to lead a new eco-skyscraper development, 2-year contract, 7 figures, full relocation package. No hesitation. I took it. And that, my friends, is where the next chapter begins. I accepted the Singapore contract without blinking. After everything I'd been through, it felt like the universe finally decided to throw me a win. It wasn't just a job, it was a chance to rebuild my life from scratch. New country, new project, new me. Even better, the firm agreed to fly Kyle out and bring him on board as part of the team. He was wrapping up his project in Dubai, and since he already knew my working style, the company offered him a senior engineering position. We were going to Singapore as a team. While all that was falling into place, Emma was doing damage control. Katie kept sending me updates from the wildlife center. Emma was constantly crying at work. Ryan had forgotten another milestone this time, their 2 months since reconnecting day, and Emma was spiraling. Apparently, she'd put together this whole romantic dinner for him, even bought him a watch, and he didn't even show up. Said he got stuck at the hospital. Typical. But what really set her off was catching Olivia and Ryan having lunch together. Again, same restaurant, same booth. She finally confronted Olivia about it, and Olivia didn't even flinch. Said, "You were married when you started talking to him, so really what are we arguing about?" Boom. Karma. Katie, bless her, recorded the blowout argument they had in the Wildlife Center break room. Emma and Olivia yelling, throwing accusations like it was a reality show reunion. The best part, Ryan showed up mid-fight, tried to smooth things over, said he and Olivia were just friends. Emma wasn't buying it. Olivia hit back with a line that deserves to be etched into stone. "At least I waited until he was single. Can't say the same about you." The Wildlife Center had to call security. Both of them got written up. Ryan got escorted out of the building. Meanwhile, I was in my office finalizing paperwork for Singapore, sipping coffee and soaking in the peace. Mike, Emma's dad, was still checking in. We'd weirdly become close through all this. He told me he'd offered to let Emma move back in with them after the Olivia blowout. She took him up on it. According to James, she quit the Wildlife Center altogether. Too much drama. Now she was back at her parents' house, posting vague, sad quotes on Instagram and pretending like she hadn't detonated her entire life. Then came the email. A long one. From Emma. She said she was finally seeing things clearly. That she realized what she'd thrown away. That Ryan was a fantasy and reality had hit her like a freight train. That I was always the one who supported her, believed in her, stood by her. She said she was sorry. She wanted to talk. Maybe see if there was any chance we could fix what was broken. I didn't reply. I forwarded it straight to my lawyer. A few days later, her mom showed up at my place. She'd just gotten back from a cruise and launched straight into some dramatic monologue about true love and second chances. She even brought a casserole like this was a sitcom. Mike showed up 20 minutes later, furious. Picked up his wife like she was a bag of groceries and told me she won't be bothering you again. Legend. Last I heard, Ryan moved on. He's now dating a pediatric nurse. Olivia got fired from the Wildlife Center after HR did an investigation into creating a hostile work environment. Took them long enough. With my move date closing in, my firm threw me a farewell party. They rented out a rooftop bar downtown. Gorgeous views, open bar, fancy finger food, the whole thing. James helped organize it, but deliberately didn't tell his family. He knew how awkward that would be. Of course, somehow Emma found out anyway. Pretty sure Olivia tipped her off. She was still friends with a couple of receptionists at our firm. Always knew how to twist the knife. The party was amazing at first. All my friends showed up, even a few old college buddies. My Singapore visa had just been approved that morning. I was feeling great lighter than I had in months. Kyle was there. James was there, and even the head of the Singapore firm flew in and brought this architect named Sarah Supersmart, driven down to earth. We hit it off right away. Then around 10 p.m. it happened. James rushed over to me, face pale. "Dude, Emma's here." I looked at him like he was speaking another language. "She's outside, in that dress." He didn't have to clarify. I knew exactly what he meant, the one she wore on our first date. The one I told her made me fall in love with her. I went out to the lobby. There she was. Mascara smeared, clearly drunk, trying to convince the security guy to let her in. The dress didn't even fit her anymore, stress weight loss or something, but she was wearing it like it was some magical fix-it charm. She saw me and launched into a full performance. Tears, apologies, talk about how Ryan meant nothing, how I was her real love, how she wanted to come to Singapore with me and start over. She even held up a plane ticket to Singapore. She'd actually bought a flight. This woman was committed to her fantasy. I just said, "You need help, professional help." And I walked away. She tried to follow me in, but security stopped her. Then she yelled something I'll never forget. "You never loved me if you won't forgive me for one mistake." One mistake. That's when Kyle stepped in. Calm, cold, straight to the point. "You mean texting your ex before the wedding or moving in with him 2 weeks after? Which mistake are we talking about?" Emma froze, then started crying harder, if that was even possible. And right then, like a cruel gift from the universe, Ryan walked by the building with the pediatric nurse, saw Emma crying in the lobby in a dress from 3 years ago, and just kept walking. Didn't even acknowledge her. The look on her face when she saw them, wrecked. She left after that, but before she did, she dropped this envelope on the ground. Said it was a letter. Kyle picked it up later when we were drunk. It was a masterpiece of revisionist history. Pages of her painting herself as the misunderstood victim, blaming Olivia, blaming Ryan, even blaming the pressures of planning the wedding. Nothing was her fault. Typical. Honestly, the party was amazing after she left. People bought me drinks. Sarah gave me her number, said she'd show me around when I got to Singapore. The next few days were quiet. I was finally packing, saying goodbye to friends, getting my condo ready for the renters. My parents and James were driving me to the airport for my 6 a.m. flight. I was excited. Clean slate. New life. Then, Emma pulled one final stunt. My flight to Singapore was at 6 a.m. I'd wrapped up everything my condo was cleaned and handed off to the property manager. I'd hugged my parents goodbye the night before, and James was going to help them drive me to the airport in the morning. It was supposed to be a peaceful, early goodbye. So imagine my face when I show up at the airport at 4 a.m., tired but excited, only to see Emma standing at the check-in counter with luggage. I froze. For a second, I thought maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was someone who just looked like her. Then she turned, saw me, and smiled like this was some kind of Hallmark movie ending. My stomach dropped. She walked over with this whole rehearsed speech ready. "Love is about fighting for what matters. I won't let you go without trying one last time, blah, blah, blah." It was like she thought we were in The Notebook, and I was supposed to be swept off my feet. Behind her, Mike. Yes, her dad was standing with his arms crossed, looking like he wanted to be anywhere else on the planet. Turns out he was the one who came to stop her. He'd found out her plan through James and made sure she didn't do something even dumber than usual. Emma then pulled out this photo album. I swear to God, it was full of our pictures. Wedding shots, vacations, even stuff from our first dates. She must have spent days putting it together. She said she brought it to remind me of what we had and that she still believed we had a chance. I walked right around her and went to check in. She stood there crying, holding that album like it was going to fix everything. "I'll prove it to you," she yelled. "I'll follow you to Singapore if I have to." That's when Mike finally snapped. He stepped forward, grabbed her suitcase, and said loud enough for everyone in the terminal to hear, "The only place you're following anyone is back home. You're embarrassing yourself, and you're embarrassing me." Boom! Emma went dead quiet. I've never seen her shrink like that. It was like her dad's words finally cut through whatever fantasy world she was living in. I didn't say a word, just kept walking towards security. Then, right on cue, guess who walks up? Sarah, the architect from Singapore. She was catching the same flight back. We had a project handoff together in the city. She walked up, gave me a big hug, and said, "You ready for dinner this weekend?" I didn't even look back at Emma, but James told me her face looked like someone had unplugged her from reality. She started this weird half-laugh, half-sob thing and said, "You're already dating." After everything, I turned to her finally and said, "What we had was special, and you threw it away. You picked a fantasy with a man who already moved on to someone else. That's on you, not me." Mike practically had to drag her out of the airport. The last thing I heard before heading through security was her crying and yelling that I was cruel for moving on. Cruel, cruel. From the woman who cheated on me, emotionally packed a bag, and moved in with her ex 2 weeks after our wedding. The irony could power a city. The flight itself, incredible. Got bumped to first class. Had champagne with Sarah. We talked about design architecture and weird ex stories. It was relaxing in a way I hadn't felt in months. When I landed in Singapore, the sun was rising. My new apartment had a full skyline view and a private rooftop pool. I dropped my bag, sat on the balcony, and just breathed. Peace. Finally. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mike. Emma finally agreed to start real therapy. She moved back in with her mom. She quit her job. Too much drama with Olivia still lurking around. Ryan's engaged now. To the nurse. Olivia's working at some shady private zoo. Honestly, I just nodded. Cool. Whatever. Good for them. Or not. I was done. I was in a new country, starting a new life, leading the biggest project of my career, about to go on a real date with a brilliant, emotionally available woman. My best friend Kyle was flying in next week to join the team. James was still my guy back home. Mike and I were closer than I ever thought I'd be with a former father-in-law. It was surreal, and yet it all made sense. Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you is exactly what you need to get where you were meant to be. I've been in Singapore for a couple months now, settled in faster than I expected. The city is alive, buzzing with ambition, clean, efficient, respectful. It suits me in a way I didn't know I needed. The Eco Skyscraper project I was brought in to lead, it's everything I could have hoped for. I'm working with a world-class team designing something that'll redefine the skyline here. We're implementing cutting-edge sustainable systems, and for the first time in years, I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving. Sarah and I. We've gone on a few dinners. Nothing serious yet, but she's brilliant, funny, kind, and totally drama-free, which is refreshing after, well, you know, Kyle's here too, living in an apartment 2 blocks from mine. Having him close again is like rewinding the clock to college, but with grown-up paychecks and fewer hangovers. We hit the gym together, work together, joke like nothing ever changed. He keeps saying, "Man, you really leveled up after that disaster." And he's not wrong. Emma, I haven't heard from her directly since the airport stunt. Thank God. Mike occasionally checks in. He said she's still in therapy. She moved back home permanently. Her mom's been trying to keep the peace, but from what I hear, things are strained. James told me Emma's been quiet on social media. No more inspirational quotes. No more cute selfies with Ryan. Ryan, by the way, is still dating the pediatric nurse. They're apparently engaged now because sure, that makes sense after 2 months. Olivia. She got hired by some shady private zoo outside the city. Katie told me the place has 2 Yelp reviews and 0 licenses. Sounds about right. It's hard to explain what it feels like to be free of something that once defined your world. There are moments like when I'm brushing my teeth or taking a quiet walk home from the office where I remember tiny things. Emma's laugh, the way she talked to animals like they were human, the first time she held my hand, and then those memories are followed by the image of her crying in my office, begging to go explore her feelings with Ryan 2 weeks after saying, "Till death do us part." That's when I breathe in the humid Singapore air and remind myself I made it out, and I'm better for it. I've had people reach out since this story made the rounds. DMs, messages from guys and women alike saying thank you, saying it helped them walk away from something toxic, helped them choose themselves. So if you're reading this, whoever you are, let me say this plainly. If someone makes you feel like you're plan B, walk away. If they say, "I need space to figure out my feelings," while texting someone else, run. If they only come back when their fantasy collapses, don't catch them. You're not a safety net. You're not an emotional crutch. You're a whole damn person who deserves someone who doesn't flinch at forever. And Emma, if you're somehow reading this, I know you still check Reddit, even if this is a throwaway account. I honestly hope you figure your stuff out. I hope therapy helps. I hope you find peace. But I won't be around to see it. I mailed the photo album you left at the airport to your parents' house. Some memories aren't mine to keep anymore. And as for all the people asking for Sarah's social media, the answer's still no. Let people live. Oh, and yes, before you ask, I've already spoken to a lawyer here in Singapore. After what happened with Emma, there's no way I'm ever combining assets again without a prenup. Lesson learned. This story blew up more than I ever expected. Thanks for all the support, the awards, the messages, and even the jokes. Some of you are savage but funny. If you want to do something good in return, donate to an animal shelter. At least some good should come out of this chaos. And me, I'm done with the past. Time to build something new, stronger, unshakable, just like a good skyscraper.